Hi everyone, welcome back. Okay, so it's been well, let's see, we stopped about 5 yesterday, and it's about 11, 19, 11:20 here in the morning. What I did was I showed you different ways to save your colors if you got to leave real quick. In some of the other videos, I showed you I use that cafeteria tray, which is fantastic. But if you don't have something like that, you can just use a saran wrap, and that's what I put on last night. You lose just a little bit of paint as you pull this thing off, so it's really just a tiny bit of paint, but it does keep them nice and fresh. And what I do is I use a little mister bottle, and I mist it right before I go put this or put the saran wrap on. Let me raise this up so we don't get some glare. There's just a little bit of glare showing up. So, and here you can see this color even that I mixed yesterday is still wet. Where the plastic wasn't, everything is completely dry. And you can take water and you can try to go over it, but it won't reconstitute it. But if you take water here and go into here, see, it reconstitutes all of this paint where it was. So these are some of the things that we built into the Heritage Multimedia, was this ability to reconstitute. If you can shut air off of it and reconstitute it, and work with it over several days. So all of this paint here is really nice. You can see it's just all like I left it last night at 5 o'clock, and now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, or 11:30 in the morning, and we're ready to go again. Okay, so different ways. My favorite way is that cafeteria tray, because I don't lose any paint, but this way is nice as well. Okay, so let's come in, and I want to put in her ears, and I want to develop that front plane. I was looking at that because she's different. She's more of this one over here as opposed to this one with her head. Her head's turned, so, which I liked a little better. I like them when you don't get exactly into a profile. And so we'll push this plane in a bit. We'll come back, and we had all different kinds of ways to make that nice bay gray, which one of my favorite is the burnt sienna and some of the green. And again, and this is a small little #2 filbert that I'm using here. I love this in the Fusion. It's very soft, and so we'll come down here and we'll put this front shadow plane in right here, down like that. That front plane, and that builds the ridges of the eyes. See, there and there, which is what you see over on her over there. So we'll use some of that one for some of our light and shadow areas there. A little bit more of the shadow right up here on this side of the nostril. That nostril might be a touch wide there, so let's just take that in a bit. Scumble it around a touch there. Let me go through and lighten that one nostril here. So I start to look at little things, guys, little details. So that lighter nostril comes up here and then down this side. Push some of this in. We'll get that gray in there too. I like the gray from the bay a little bit more than what you see on that other gray Roan, the gray in the nostril. So I want to put that in. And again, different kinds of blues and reds make different kinds of grays. Beautiful grays. That's just such a pretty gray on her. And you can make that violet too that we did yesterday, which is good. Let's put in some of this gray though. Here, right up in there. Get that nice coloring. See, you get all that beautiful coloring in there. By doing it several times, you bring in all those colors. Oh, it just makes such a big difference in your painting for, the interest that you're going to develop in your painting. A little bit of light here. A little bit of light. Let's just drop a bit of that down here. Bit of that lighter gray in there, little touches of it. Here, let's grab some of this other gray right in here. Kind of like a halftone, right, between the two. Touch some of that in through there. See, all of that beautiful working of those tones. Each time you touch it, you get a little bit, more detail, a little bit more interest into the painting here. Here we go. And I like the soft filbert because I do a little sketching, but it's not anywhere perfect. And let's deepen, let's go with that violet and blue here. And if you get this, like this violet, see how it's just a touch tight. Not bad at all, but just a touch. You just take your mister bottle and just mist it. Matter of fact, if you just give a light mist, the paint is made to absorb water back down through it. And a lot of people always ask me, why don't I use, let's add this shadow in here, why don't I use like a stay wet palette with the acrylics and stuff? And I don't need to. And the stay wet palette, some of those sponge palettes and stuff, they add too much water to the paint that I don't want to have to deal with. So I don't use them at all in anything that I paint. I stay very much just a tube right from the paint. That's how I like to paint it. So I'll put a little bit of that. Let's drop this in just a bit in there. Soften the edges of her eye and then carry the color around a little bit here and there. That always just a few marks of that color in some of the deeper areas that you might have. You know, that it just helps the overall harmony of your horse. Let's get more towards that bay color a bit here. And we'll put that ridge right in here. That light down right there. Drag, scumble that across a little bit there. Okay, let's, now you see the other of her eye. And those of you that, you know, that are in the membership, you can look right at your photo. We'll have this other ridge right here. Let's put a little bit of that light right there. Develop that ridge. And then those are some of the main points, you know, in horses. I've painted a lot of horses, and I always try to develop that nice eye socket, that ridge bone that goes up above their eye here. That this is part of their character. And let's pull that down just a bit right in here. There we go. And we'll build that one bone that's right there. We'll build that up a bit. Let's soften a little bit of our bay and green, maybe even a little bit of the blue, because you can make that bay with that blue and that violet, just slightly different color. See, I always change that tone a little bit, right? Scumble that just a touch that in and soften some of that eye. That's good. See, it's giving more interest in there. We could have a touch more of that light and right up in here. Let's get that just a bit more. And a little open medium. If you're going really opaque, you know, and you're putting these marks on, that open medium is just fantastic. And it'll keep the colors wet for you for a little bit. Let's just pull that a little sideways. Get that side plane of the face there. And that's pretty good. A little bit of the dark down as we go to the gray of her front of her face here. A little touch of some of that light just whispered in there softly. Let's see that. And I'm just looking for little tones, slightly lighter right down through here on this part of her head. Right there. That's pretty good. Looking, you know, just matching shadow in areas in here. I could have a little bit more of a half-tone shadow, which means just a half a degree darker right in there. Right up in here, we'll pull down on the side just a little bit. And again, a little bit of that green and stuff in there, so it gives us a little different look to her there, which I like. And I'll just thin this out. I'll thin this out with a little bit of extender. Like I always say, if I'm going to go shadow and I'm going to thin it out, and I'm working the outside edge just to kind of straighten up a little bit of her drawing here. But I want to scumble this just lightly over the surface, so I break so I don't have a perfect line. I see this little broken edge that helps it recede. So I want to do that. Now let's take some of this, thin it out just a bit, and let's drop it right in here on her. You look at that brush. Look how it's an old brush and it doesn't have a chisel anymore. That's why I love painting on this, because the edges aren't super fine. So I'll just do a little. That didn't work. So you get to remove that. You just take a little paper towel. My finger was dirty from what I did before. Take a little paper towel, just a little bit of water, and say bye-bye to that. And let's just come in and just lightly sketch that ear there. Be a bit more of this one right up over here. Keep it light and loose and, you know, not perfect. That's the thing I'm looking for. Not perfect. Let's grab a little bit of all of that. Nice deeper shadow. We'll drop. The bays have really nice darks as they get up towards the tips of their ears there. So we'll drop a bit of that in there. And a bit of that right in here. There we go. Now we got to give her some mane and stuff so that doesn't look like it's, you know, just standing out there like horns. So let's give her some mane. First, let's go into the mane, and we'll do it with, and I'll do it here first on around the front of her up here with the small 2, and then I'll go to a larger brush back here. But let's just give a little bit of that darker mane, the feel of that mane there. There. Okay. And whisper it out, fuzz it out here a bit so it gets a little bit of transparency to it, so it's not super heavy. Just push your finger through it, take out some of it. And one of the reasons, this is one of the reasons why I leave, and you see I just did a little drag, which I like. I leave this matte is because I can push and take that off. And I heard an Australian artist say this years ago, which is nice about painting on a matte surface. He described it when you paint on a matte surface and you make your mark and then you come back and remove that mark, it leaves just a little bit of the paint because the matte grabs it, and he calls it leaves just a little memory of what you did before, which sometimes when you're painting you need just a little bit to say, I did that. You don't need a whole bunch. So let's grab some of this. Now on the other one, I like that bit just kind of folded up over her here. So I'll grab some of that. We'll smush it out here towards the back. And I'll probably take some blue and go up there too. But see, using this small old brush, nothing's perfect here. And so I'll push some up here. You know, she right up through here like this. I'll push some up and leave that up like that. And a little more burnt sienna maybe into it right down through here. Just a little bit of hairy look to it here. There we go. And I can bring out the tip of the ear if it bothers me. That doesn't bother me too much there. But I could bring that out if I wanted to. We can pull some over a bit more. Kind of smooth it out just a bit. Now, if you want to go back in and really, because, you know, the colors are soft. Let me clean my finger here for a second. Okay. So I'll take a little water right on my finger. Okay. This is a good thing. And I can push back into it, see, and soften the look or the edge of the mane to a receding edge. So I'll take a little water. You're an acrylic painter. We can do this. You know, oil painters can do it too, but acrylic painters can do it as well. And just soften some of the look of that mane back there like that. And push it any way that you want it to go. Now, I can take... Now what I like to do also is I like to paint what I call a positive edge to this. So I'm going to take some of this blue and some of my violet, and I'm going to make that lighter color here. And I'll push this back in. So I pushed in some of that movement. Now I'm going to soften this even more right around in here, working back and forth between my light color of my sky, which isn't exactly what I put on before, and I don't want it to be. I want a little bit of this atmosphere and difference to come in here like this. So I work, and this is going to give a little more color here to my sky. Now, if you want it more wispy or something, and you go back and forth. This is what, I can, and especially now as I got that blue on there, I can really put on a nice wispy little edge here for the main of, and I can pull that heavier. Let's go blue, a little blue and violet here. Maybe a touch of green into that, a little bit of burnt sienna, nice color. And we can pull some of this down here, right in here. And then you can work the same thing. So on the other side here, we can take our lighter, we had that lighter violet almost into the, when we put on her hip, and this lighter, almost violet color that came down through here. So we can touch that through and soften the mane here on the other side. Here, pulling some of that color that you see there. If you like that one, just pull that color here and push this up and down here. Let some of that mane color just kind of stay in here, and it's fine. There we go. Some of that blue and that other mane color sit there. But you can see, really, on this ridge, how light that ridge of her neck is right there. So you see, this is a way that you can get a nice look, multiple looks in there, but nice looks in there. Let's lighten. Let's go more of the burnt sienna, a little more lighter bay color. And we'll paint up through some of this there. And see, that all that I do in there just starts to lighten up or the mane. So I'm painting the mane. I used to take like a small brush and make like little hairy strokes. And now I paint heavier paint back and forth through it to give a more casual look to the colors there. So I can take a bit of this and this right in here. That's just a little blue, so I'll take a bit of it out, scumble it out. Here we go. And then we'll take that dark and just kind of fold this over here, right down in there. Like that, that comes in. That's pretty cool. Now, there's little wispies of hair up here, and if you want to do those, you can certainly do those. Just whisper up like this, and you can get like little whispers of the hair. Just push up and pull back into that, and you can get that. How much you're going to do, it's up to you. Or you can go to a smaller brush and do a few little touches of it. That's fine too. It all works. Let's go in and let's put there's very, very soft little catch light, and I might have to go to a small, my pointed round that you see me use on birds and stuff here. Just soft, not white, but just a real soft. Let's put a little catch light about 2 o'clock to the eyeball here. Maybe a little bigger. There we go. Just a little catch light there. I know that's really hard to see, but it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing that it worked. No, it does. We can add like little touches of that light around, little shines. See, I like my brush just fans all out, and I like it when it gets that because it makes some of this just more casual. as I put that on there. And you can look for, a few larger strokes of that light where you might see some of that here, little touches of that, just to get her a little lighter. So there you go. That gets that. Let's go over to our larger flat here that we were using here, and I will look at building and defining this body a little bit more. Some of this dark I had here, let's add a little extender to it. Beautiful dark, a little more burnt sand. See, it mixes up with some of this. This is just a real nice tone right here. Let's just redefine that shadow just a bit more. Break that edge. I want her to be softer, so I don't want the edges to be perfect anywhere on her. Let's lighten. So, she's all dried down now, overnight, and so we can look at some of these lighter areas that we might want to put on here and there, and just scumble them on, put a little color, scumble them on. If we want to develop, this one doesn't have as much a developed front shoulder as that one does. So, but we can paint right between the two. Let's put a little bit of that. Let's grab a bit of this lighter, almost violet-y color here, and drop that in here. That's good. And maybe widen, and I'll use extender. Now, if you want it really, really thick, go to the open medium. I'll use a little extender here. There we go. And watch that slight curvature there as it's heading into that. But that builds that shoulder up just a touch more. And here, let's just give that little break of that shadow there. And just, you're building that shoulder into that barrel, and I just, it's how much you're going to do. Here, I have it really light, because it's really light there. Here, you see it very much into shadow. So I'm going to come right in between the two, I think, and I'm going to take a bit of the bay color and a bit of the blue here, the burnt sienna and blue, and just, yeah, that's very close to that color, which I kind of like the shadow a little higher here, which will make her barrel a little rounder. Here we go. Just a bit of it. See, and I'll just kind of scumble that into that there. Gets a different color. See, and it's actually almost very close to that. So that's pretty good. We'll take a little bit of light. Let's just define that. See, back and forth is what makes it pretty. Is you get all those different colors and stuff going in there, right? Okay, so we could have, and there's other little areas, that I could concentrate more on the actual tone a little bit more. But if I start to get a good look, I don't worry, or let me say this, I don't go into the minutia of the painting so much, because that just starts to make them look too stiff. So, if I feel like I'm getting a good look and I'm getting close, then I won't get wrapped up in tiny little things. Here I'm just taking the bay color, some violet, a little green here, and I'll just reinforce the shadow line from this throat that comes down there like that. Okay, and another one right up here. Just the idea of it right there, see? And maybe a bit right up here by the top of her mane. There. That's pretty good, yeah. And let's grab some of the, and sometimes I'll come through, matter of fact, maybe I'll even go a little bit of the open medium here and make a touch more of a distinct mark that gives that roundness right there to the barrel. And and a lot of your Western painters, as they start to finite some of the details and stuff, they will make more distinctive marks. Here we'll get that shadow in there nice, right in there. And let's go to with the halftone. So there's, and here's the gray in here. Somewhere in here, I'll make a halftone, a little blue, a little bit of this gray. We have this gray, blue, violet here, which is some of our lighter values here, right? Whoops, that's too much. Gives me the opportunity to mix more. There we go. And then I'll come in here, a little bit of the bay color. So I'm transitioning right in here. These are all just real good tones, all of these. But this will help me right in here, right with that leg here. We'll head this way. Maybe a touch of extender. Extender if you want it a little thinner. So you don't want a huge impact to the mark. There we go. Just like that. And back up over here. Let's just build this up. We'll leave that shadow a bit, but we'll build a bit more, maybe a bit more of our gray right in here. I'm looking right at the horses, right at both of them, and kind of painting both of them together here. Let's head to our shadow right here. Put a bit of a halftone right in there. So it's halfway between the light and the shadow. And I'll just touch it in there, soften it out a bit. And see all of those little marks that you get in there now from doing it several times, that just looks great. We can get down here towards her fetlock. Let's put a bit of the color in there, a little darker. You can wispy it off here a bit. There we go. Back here, as I get back in this area, I'm just going to kind of quickly sketch or set their feeling here. We want to get that nice dark on the shadow side back here. Nothing too perfect. Quick. I'm probably going to come back in and build that shoulder right there. Matter of fact, let's just go do that one more time. Lighter, maybe just a touch more of the bay color with the burnt sienna goes into that. And let's round that mark up just a bit more. That builds that shoulder just a touch more. And then we need that halftone in there. Halftone. So a little darker. A little halftone darker. Let's put a little gray in it. A little bit darker right in here to set between that shadow and that. Right there, see? And I'm going to hit that light one more time because it's going to dry down. So I'm going to put a little gray in it, a little different. Let's hit that one more time right in here. That just builds that shoulder. I love to paint the horses with just big, powerful shoulders. And just soften that just a bit there. Good. Okay, so now you can scumble over all of this. Like I can take some of this, thin it out, okay? Thin it out. Take quite a bit of the paint out of your brush here too. And a lot of people will, when you say, oh, dry brush, they get that brush really, really dry. That's not necessary. That's one reason why I call it granulation. The paint here is wet, see? But there's not much in the brush. There's the difference. And so I lighten the pressure here. And see, I just lightly scumble over this to break some of those areas and to give her her Roan look. Okay? That's what I want to do. So it's not like the paint is like super dry. No. It's just I don't have that much paint in the surface here. Let's drop in a little bit of this down here. See, just a little bit helps her get that nice roundness there or movement. Let's put a little bit of this in here. Watch what happens, see? You can hear me scrubbing it. So the paint isn't really dry. I just don't have that much paint. Start where you see it kind of the heaviest, and then just kind of scumble it through there. She can have a little bit more over here by her tail. There. Okay. And let's drop that tail in. Let's first grab some bay color and some of this dark and suggest where that leg would be in there. Okay. So it will just suggest that in there because it's going to most of it's going to disappear there. And we look at that. She's real dark. Let me put the fetlocks and the hair and stuff here that's kind of over the hoof right here, and then we'll do just a light set of a color here for the, we're just going to, I don't like to do too much detail on the hooves and stuff because, you know, generally I cover them all up with grass, but I don't like to do too much details and stuff on them. I keep them always just kind of simplistic here. Just a simplistic mark. Some artists go in detail with them, and that's fine, but I keep it kind of simplistic. Now, okay, so we have that. Let's look. We can deepen before we put that mane in, I mean the tail. Let's go in and deepen that just a bit here. Break that edge. Just deepen that side over there. A little bit of scumble here. Just to break that edge. That's nice. I like that light on the rump. Could have a bit more. See, that dried down maybe a touch more than I wanted to do. I really, on that Ether Gray Roan, love that light color. So I really want to, let's hit that one more time. And we'll just break the edges here, like this. Leave a bit of that light mark right there on that front shoulder. There. We'll see how that, it could have a bit more of a, which really helps develop that front shoulder here, a bit more movement to the mark. The calligraphy, right? You hear me say that, the calligraphy. Read that in Al Gurry's book, and when he's talking about the Dutch masters and stuff, of calligraphy, and I just love that term because it actually really described what they do with their brush. And in Al Gurry's book, I showed that in some of my other videos. And in studying the masters, you could actually, you know, and when I was over in Europe, you can actually, when you look at the different masters, you start to tell who they are by their brushwork, their calligraphy. It's very true, you know. So, and I really enjoyed that term. So I kind of kept that term and like it. Okay, so that's there on her. But if we use some of that light, we might want to touch it here and there into some of the other areas on her that we know are light struck planes here. So we know those light struck planes. So you're picking them up. And you can see, if you don't have that color traveling over here, the head will be dissociated from the body. So you need a little bit of it. Little touches of that color and that, the marks of that color here to show up just a few areas there. And that's pretty good. That works. Let's just pull up a little bit here, down that side. Here we go. Down like that. Okay, let's keep moving. Keep moving. Don't get bogged down in little details, Dave. Let's keep moving. Get a bit of that light right out here. Maybe a touch of this light hitting the front edge of the hooves where they're going to be. Now let's grab some burnt sienna, some blue, some open medium. We want this a little thicker. Dark. We're going to do this stroke a couple times, a little bit of green here. Okay. We'll come back through like this. Now, there's a couple ways to do it. Let me just say, see this right here? This is why I like the granulation, the matte, because it grabs it, and I love that look. Now, if you feel like yours grabs too much, you can do like I showed you in that last little 15-minute video last week, was just to put a little extender on the surface first, or add open medium and flood your brush also with extender, and it will move nicely for you over the surface while giving you a little bit of that transparency. So, and I can pull that down like that, see, and get that interest that I want. The hardest thing is, what you've got to do is try to do this as simplistic as possible with as few strokes as possible. And sometimes that's hard. So I'm going to push some a few darker strokes here, and just let this go here. And maybe a bit more of the dark, like we see on her over there. Maybe a bit of the dark mark right here. Right there like that. And maybe some burnt sienna right up here in the front where you would have a light circle. You can even see on the other man, it gets a little light. But so right in here, I'll hit a few streaks of the burnt sienna. Then I can take off, leaving just a bit of the memory there and lighten up the edge of the tail. And you can come in with a smaller brush and, you know, and work some little individual hairs. I'm not going to. I'm going to leave the massive parts of some strokes coming down through here like that, leaving that tail like that. But I like how that one pushes up just a bit up here, so I might do that. You know, just a bit of the wild hairs right up there by her rump. And just leave those there like that. So it gets that's kind of nice. You can get some of that light if you want to hit a touch of those lights in here. And sometimes I'll just use my brush flat like this and just hit a touch of the lights. And I use my brush very, very flat. So it's mostly kind of scratching the surface here like that. And just hit some of those lights. And that looks kind of neat down there. Okay. Now let's straighten up that shadow, that deeper shadow, since I got this nice deep shadow here on this back side of her leg. We'll straighten that up a bit. And this deep shadow coming right up here. We'll bring this more burnt sienna, maybe a touch of this gray right in here. Bring that up closer to her tail here. There we go. Could put a touch of dark to this side there. Okay. Kind of like that. There we go. And let's shape up where we see shadows on that other one. Where do we see some of those shadows? So we straighten up just a little more of the leg. Here up here by her knee. We go a little bit more there. That's pretty good. Yeah, and I'll take some open medium here, some of this gray, and I might need to mix just a touch more. So some of this lighter blue gray, maybe a bit of that, and just come in across, kind of across scumbling here, the width of her back of her rump here to give it a little, you know, you need a little bit of a calligraphy going this way to round that rump, if that makes sense. And a bit more light down the front of this muscle here. So I'll scumble that on, and I'm going to darken it down and scumble some of this other right in between there. And this scumbling that you do here like this, I mean, I'll do a lot of scumbling on this because she's a roan. And so I want these color fields to kind of cross into each other a bit. And, you know, like the roan does, you know, gets you all that. And you can see I could warm up with a little bit more bay color right up in here. You know, but make sure you preserve some of that light here. You know, some of that light. And since this rump is like really at, you know, towards us here, we really want to make sure we capture it here. So a little more light. And I'll go back, grab a little bit of this, just a touch in my brush, and just scumble over that edge. See, and it kind of brings that in. Scumbling was such a powerful technique of the Dutch masters. They used it. And in the old version, okay, in the old way, when you read the old masters or a definition, if you go to an art library or something and you read, oh, this is the definition of scumbling. What does he mean scumbling? Scumbling was normally done with as you progress through lighter values. But I use it darks also, so it works. Well, I saw a few Dutch masters that did it darks as well. So, you know, the main definition is you work with the lights, but no, you can do the darks too. So that's kind of cool. That got that worked. And let's just grab through there now. Yeah, that looks pretty good on her. I like this a little bit more wispy on the edge here. You know, my horse, my big white horse that I had, his tail went all the way down to the ground. And I used to ride a lot of parades with him, with the sheriff's department and the color guard. And it took me so long before each parade to clean that tail. But yeah, that will work. Let's see, we get this. Let's get just a bit more dark right here. This will help push this back leg back. Give a little bit more definition to that front leg there. Let's keep this. Let's let that come out there like that. That's I think all I'm pretty much going to do with her. I mean, I can bring her up a little bit more. I could, you know, you could scumble on a little bit of that light right in here. You know, that goes right in there, and then set it back in. Even though I scumble with the light, I like to set it into place, see, with just one or two little quick marks of dark, and that just does so, it just works so well. Okay, let's go to a smaller brush now, and let's go in on the little guy here, and we're going to keep him very simplistic. So we'll take a little dark, a little burnt sienna and a touch of our darker gray. We'll just push in the idea of the ears, the top of his head there. Okay, let's keep him simplistic though. Slightly darker, a little more blue, darker blue into that. And we'll just give the idea of where those ears are in there. And then I'm going to remove some of it with my fingers there so it stays very light. So it gets that memory there, which helps it recede. Let's put that dark mark down the center. Remember that center mark we put here? Let's add a bit of that down, and then it's going to shift to the shadow on his little eye right there. Okay. Some of this dark, very dark here. Right where his nostrils, a little curvature here for his nostrils. Here, a little curve either side. I'm looking up at my big monitor there because it's so small. Let's give a impression, not a perfect round. That's why I use this old filbert. So it's not perfect. It fuzzes on the edge for the eyes there. Okay. And so let's go a little more burnt sienna. And we'll pull down just a touch through that edge and down this side of the face. That's going to be a little dark, so I'm going to go burnt sienna over here with a little light, maybe a bit of the gray here. And just pull through that. And as a matter of fact, I can shape up his face here a bit too, just by using and painting through that color there. And yeah, that's good. Let's touch a little bit of this gray light and pull down. And what you're thinking of, where's that big socket? There's that big socket here on his eye. And it'll appear just a bit over here. But it's going to be more shadow, so we'll head, and I'm going to thin this. So I have just a little bit of color, but it's a little thinner. And I'm thinking more of just kind of sketching and drawing him here, keeping the calligraphy very easy. More of a sketch and a draw on him as I do this. And let's just go ahead and use a little bit of this gray right down his nose and his face. And the front of his face, like I always say to a lot of the painters here, we want to well, they have this angle that comes down and then an angle. They're very angular. And across here, as looking at it, it's going to be very angular across there, right there. And let's darken this drop of that eye and down that side just a touch more. But keep him, you'll know what he is. You already know what he is. And the thing that you can, where you can make a mistake, guys, really easy, is doing so much to him that he looks stiff. And that's what you don't want to do, is you don't want that stiffness to come in there. So let's, keep him a little bit, just suggestive, a little bit suggestive on everything here. So here we go. That's my phone ringing in the other room. I won't answer it. Yep. And so we'll put a bit of the dark right up here and a bit of that shadow right there and a bit more dark right in here. Okay. That's good. Let's lighten that gray shadowy there with a bit of the burnt sienna and some white. It's a nice new different color over here. A little more shadow, but a little difference. And we'll use that to put in some of the other shape here of him. Right in like that. And maybe, and then we'll head over towards this gray with the white to use that to as kind of the highlight, the light side, touching into him here. Pull some of that down. See, and my calligraphy here that I have it, even pulling some of this down, and when I push and I hold that brush very flat, it just imparts a little bit of color, and that's what I want to put in there. So you'll learn over time that, pushing that brush down and just dragging a little bit imparts just a tiny bit of color, which sometimes is all you need. Let's go a little lighter, a little grayer. Here, let's make our gray with our blue and our burnt sienna here. And you can see this real light hip of his right here. So we'll push some of that in, but we want to get some of that nice, color, the bay color in there as well, but just a little bit. This is a forward hip, so we'll get some light in there. I could go a touch more light down here onto the side of his face, maybe a bit right there, just little marks of it. A little bit pulling here. I'm just looking at the photo and where do I see the lights, and I just make quick little marks where I see the lights, and then I'll soften everything else altogether. Let's go back to some of this dark, but not as super dark, and we'll just give some shape to his legs here. And sometimes I'll just pull the memory like this, and it does most of the painting for you. We may leave it up here on a forward area, but not that much. So we go further back. Let's put just a bit of the light, which is part of his body right there, his neck, just right there like that. And we have to push the face here forward of this body here, so we'll keep that real nice shadow right here on this side. And maybe just a touch lighter back here. Make sure that you don't leave a space of the ground cutting in there. You want to see his body continue all the way through there. I used to do that sometimes. Let's thin this, because I'm going to go to the back side here, and I want it thin and just impressionistic here, leaving just an edge or the memory there. Maybe a bit of the light and some of this right here. He's going to have this front leg comes right here, curves around, and that's that one there, almost like a Z shape there. There we go. And a little bit more body color, so you can just fill in right in here. Just kind of simplistic because you already see he's a little horse. And then all you have to do is just paint for a little roundness where you would see the shadow right back up here. Just kind of scumble that around. Push that around into the roundness there on him, right? And maybe just a quick little touch of the light here on this leg. Here. There. That's good. Let's, you know, they have such dangly legs. And here we go. Right in there. Here we go. There, just like that. Let's push a touch of the light in here, and then, you know, how much more we do is going to depend really also on the ground. We have to push a bit more into the ground here. Here's that front one coming up there. Just the idea. We go, and I might tap in a bit bigger little eyeshadow there. So I'll put it in like that, see? And then usually when I leave the horse, just like I did up there, I leave it with the light, that ridge that forms the top of his that gives him just a little more character there. But he could, that eye itself, I know it's hard for you guys to see, but I could make that a touch darker. So I'm going to go more violet here. Just a touch darker on the eye itself, right in there. There we go. Let's touch that around a bit. So into some of this, maybe some of that back into here, some of that violet, some of that right in here, maybe. Push and round his leg down into that. Okay. That helps quite a bit. And yeah, and you can give a maybe a bit darker right before we are going to push in the hooves right in some of that area. Touch a bit of light right where the hooves will be. Here. There we go. Just an idea of it. And I kind of like that. You know, he's got that little tuft of hair. I'm going to do a little more burnt sienna in that. Right up there. Leave a memory. And yeah, let's go just a little bit of green. If I get too orangey with that burnt sienna, sometimes I'll add the green. More so than the blue, because I've already had the blue in there. So, you know, I'm always kind of knowing where I am with my color here. Like I was doing a lot of blue into this, so it's time to get a bit of the green in to help with some of the coloring, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. Let's go. Now we're going to come right up into the front. What are we going to do at the front? I think what I'm going to do is just take some of this and a little bit of yellow oxide right with it. Let's get a little open medium in this. Maybe a little bit of the light through here. We're just going to pick up some of this color, and we're going to start pounding on, almost like a Richard Smith would do, right in your center of interest there. Start putting in some of that color, and even let it be a little choppy here, as, you know, kind of like the little prairie here coming up into our little guy. Here he's setting down into the grass here a bit. I love the choppiness of some of this stuff. And we want to get, you know, we have some greens, burnt siennas, you know, a little bit of that green, burnt sienna, some of that yellow. We haven't even used any of these yellows. All of these can come in here. Nice differences here. Just touch in some of these colors. And you know, I'm a big advocate. Like if I get it like too much or too dark or something like that, I'll just toss on more color. I put it on and I look at it and I go, oh, I want that a little lighter. Well, I can make that lighter. I just grab some more color, a little open medium here, sometimes a little extender, and so that it slides. The extender makes it all slide, and I'll add some more. Then I can come through with my paper towel and give the impressions like I've showed you before. I use sometimes brushes, sometimes paper towels. Give the impressions of some grasses and some movements and stuff here. You know, take that up, soften that out. Take some of this up and through here, push it around, soften. As some of that goes up, we're going to work areas here. And the other thing that I always tell, what have I always told you too, about taking some of your blues from your skies and bringing it right down into your grasses. So here's a bigger brush with a little water that I now come through here and soften and put in some more movement. And sometimes I'll grab this blue like this from the sky and from the horse, and I'll push this in, and I'll use this to start softening and scumbling edges. Let's grab just a little bit of this back through here, a bit, and use your paper towel, push it around. As we get further back, we've got to get some of that linear perspective in there, which we'll do. If I hit the horses too much, I'll just go back and set it. So sometimes I'll go right into it rather than avoid it, and I'll hit it, and I'll just go back and fix it. And I like that. You know, it used to bother me. I hit the background. Now I like the play I get back and forth, you know, from hitting something and, you know, and getting some of the movement, you know, and the edges and the softer edges it creates if I hit that edge. And then I'll come back and do something else and work through it and soften it out. It gives me a better edge. Let's, you know, and the other thing is you're going to want to have a little bit of the shadows here. A violet shadow here. Let's grab some violet, a little green. Not that much green, a little more violet. Nice grayed shadow here, some kind of grayed shadow. I'm going to use just a little bit of paint, so I'm wiping some of it off. A little bit of the light's coming in here from the left, so shadow would be in here. And so I'll just take that off here. There, a little bit of shadow, a little bit here on the little guy here. Let's go in with a smaller brush here that I was using. Here it is. With some of this. And add some of that shadow. We'll add that hoof in there as well. But some of that shadow here. Boom, right in through here. Just the idea, and I'll fix up, you know, some of these edges and stuff. I'll fix them up. We'll grab that, but that little bit of shadow. And sometimes, you know, you can just really focus that really deep shadow, like in an area that you really want to see, maybe right between the two of them here. That exchange right between the two of them there, and really kind of lift her up a bit. But I'll fix some of these other areas here. There. But don't ever forget about your shadow. Contact shadows, ground shadows, cast shadows. Get your shadows in there. And yeah, and the rest of, as I go back here, you know, I'm just gonna, I think what I'm gonna do is just leave this very impressionistic back and forth here, just a little light and what we call light and shadow in the ground, and not do too much. I'm going to leave this all about her and her foal right up front here. And a little green, a little lighter green, some of the lighter colors here. Grab some of that through. I'll probably build this up a little bit more here. But you've seen me all kinds of different ways. And so, you know, some of you may like a different way of doing it, and that's okay. So we'll break some, we add that shadow, then we break it up just a bit there, and then we let it become more atmospheric to the back. But right up in here, you know, I really want to get some more movement up in here. Let's grab this light and this gray and these yellows and stuff. And we want to create that really nice movement here, right up into the very front. This is what's going to help really pull her to the front here. Okay. So a little bit more here. And we'll come through and touch through. You know, maybe there like that. So a little lighter. See how it starts to pull her forward here. So a little more light. Just kind of grab that. I love grabbing that with that knife. And then I like to, you know, lately, this whole last year, I really enjoyed pulling through with the paper towel to get some of the looks of some of the grasses and stuff. I've enjoyed that quite a bit. A little more touch of Diarylide in there. And differences of the colors here. And build it. Build it, build it, especially right up here, because this is the area you want it to advance. So, you know, we'll build. This is the area that's the most important. And, you know, you've seen me in other videos. I use this brush to scratch in grasses. This is an old round, bristle round that I use, that we make. And I flattened it out, hit it with a hammer, flattened it out, and then started filling it up with a little bit of paint so it's stiff. And then I use this to make some soft grasses and stuff around here. And just a few. You don't need tons here, but a few little marks here to give the idea of those grasses. Stuff around her. Here, and there we go. Just kind of fun. Yeah, and you might take a few of them back through here, just the ideas. Make sure you get up close to that horse. Get some of that back in here so you don't create a line or anything like that. So, and I think I'm going to create a bit more right in here. Here, we'll grab some of that yellow. We'll pull through that as well. And then we'll pull a few grasses. Here again, just you know, putting more of the emphasis right down in here. It's a little softer back here. Just some ideas. Softer ideas. And then let it kind of fade. And of course, as you get further back, the grasses get small, you know, all the way to just maybe some lines of color back here. Let's take some soft washes of that back here. That's a little heavy, so I'm just going to rinse my brush off and just almost like a watercolor pull through here, right up to that horse, right up to her face. Okay, there, like that, and that helps her. And then you can just let it fade right back here into your blue sky. Sometimes just a dirty paper towel is enough here, but you can get, and I like to use my left hand. I'm a right-hand painter, but I can paint with both hands, but I like my other hand. You've heard me say that before when I do some of this stuff, because it's not the same mark that my front hand uses. So, I mean, my right hand uses. And then I'll come back in, and let's come back in work just a little bit more lights here and there to kind of pop this little guy up here. Here, nice little full, some lights hitting, little light hooves there. Okay, where's some of that hitting on him? Well, colors repeat just a few things here. And some areas let recede, but some of these, like this back edge here, you can push that in and then you can just, if you push it with your finger, the edge will recede. So, and that's what so I'll push that on and a little more shadow, maybe a little bit more of the bay color, green and burnt sienna shadow here. Pushing down here, get that bit of shadow before we do that cast shadow right there. See, that's what I like this, to push in here and start moving this around a bit. Let's get that deeper fetlock right here on her. And we could probably bring up that light of her hoof just a bit right in there. Here, probably just a touch more. I normally don't, but we can do that right there. A little bit of light showing up on that hoof there. And sometimes well, a lot of times when you're painting like this, the most simplistic mark is enough. So you don't need to really go after that. Just keep it simple. Keep the simplistic mark, because the viewer's going to see it. See, they know the horse's hooves are there. And so if you go attack them too much, then, it's just, it's going to confuse the issue. So because you're trying to make it too perfect. So let's take that little light out right there. And let's push just a bit of that light. Maybe just a touch more bay color. Right up along that one. Here, maybe a bit more shadow right here as this comes right down. So you can just see him there. So, it's how much you want to work on him, but I like that. I got a little bit quick light to dark there. And basically his calligraphy here is a little bit more round. So I'll round that, and I'll come back with my light and round this as well. Right back in here, maybe push it back and forth a little bit round here. That's his hip there. So let's just round that a little more gray. Let's round this over here. That's better. We'll get a touch of light right down here again and just pull round. Pull over a little bit more round. That's kind of good. There we go. And let's drop, even though the photo doesn't show it, I'm going to give him a little bit more highlight right there. That really pulls that face forward and just gives him this little fold. Just a touch more interest there. Maybe a touch more light down this edge. But I'll leave it, really sketchy here. Doesn't have to be, the foals and stuff, they have these big knobby knees. And this guy, you can kind of see his big knobby knees. So if you want to work on those and add some more knobby knees in there, you can. They have big, huge knobby knees. But kind of fun. It's kind of a fun little painting to see. And I wanted to show you guys some of how you could use some of the older master techniques of scumbling and stuff with your colors to get kind of the Roan look. And, it really works well. Let's get just a little more shadowy, knobby knee here. Right there. And, yeah, a bit more right in there. There we go. It's a nice little fold. He's got a nice, I could raise this, and you can even, on the big monitor there, you see a little bit of like his eyelash coming off there, which this, if you give just a touch of the eyelashes like the old cows that we did before, it really softens their face and makes their face really sweet. So, just a bit. Let's do that, and bit of that burnt sienna color there, pulling down just lightly on that side. And I think that is going to kind of do it for him. Simple, little fun, quick painting. You could put a bit more light color and stuff up into here. I'm going to take out that bit there. You can put a touch more up into the sky if you want. I think we'll take just any kind of light color here and soften back this edge. Bring that back up just a bit there. Now, and I'll look through. See, it's quite a bit different between the front of her shoulders and her shoulder here where that light is. And I'm a big advocate of that big light going on that big shoulder right up in front. So I'm going to get this lighter gray one more time right up in here, pulling that down right up in there, and let's soften that with just a touch of our bay color. Just scumble that into that actually just a bit to help round that shoulder. But yeah, and I think I'll take just a touch of that bay color into that gray there as well. That's got a good calligraphy to it there. There. That's kind of neat. This is where, like, if I was going to paint with a ton of texture, this is where I grab that texture and really put a nice hit right up in here. That is just such a perfect place for that. And that's going to dry down. Looks like a lot right now, but it's going to dry down. You're surprised? Some of you are surprised at how much acrylics dry down? They really do. So, see, that looks pretty good right there. A little shines, a little bit more light. And you can start, now that you have this in, if you want to use this as a color map and start putting in even more, highlights and stuff to it, and textures. You can certainly start doing that. I think I'll bring this hip up just a bit more with some light. Hit that, or that line there of her leg, and then scumble that right with a little dark here so we don't destroy her Roan look too much, and it's not a perfect line here. There we go, just like that. Kind of fun. And don't forget to always travel that color. I've been forgetting that lately here. Travel that color a bit here. Oh, get that color, travel it a bit. Get that gray in there, travel it a bit. Touch that light. Just a bit of scumbling. And that looks pretty good. And if you want to have more, I might put a little bit more right up in here, and a little more textures, a little bit more light, a little bit more dark. You can have like little touches of dark ground in through here, which would be good because the dark will help anchor the little guy here as well. But darks help do what we call settle. They create the ground sometimes better than the lights do, and and it pulls the dark down and helps it ground. And so sometimes if your designs feel like they're floating just a little bit off the top, you need a few darks in there to help set that ground in, and that can work here. So there you go. I think this is gonna, we'll just scrape a little bit of that. We'll just scrape a little bit of light here, and just leave this whole front kind of simplistic out here. Use my paper. I just love that paper towel. Yeah, you got yourself a big expensive painting. How'd you do it? Well, paper towel. Costco paper towel. There you go. All right. So that's just some ideas, but that scumbling, you know, and it's not that the paint, you're creating what I like to call a granulated surface, what a lot of watercolors would call like a granulation. And when it's not exactly like a dry brush, and like I said, a dry brush, when I used to teach 20 years ago, a lot of dry brushing and stuff, and I saw people just drying it all out and then scrubbing it. No, it's not that you don't have that less little paint like that. It's just, well, you don't have very much paint, and that you, like what I did here is, you don't have too much paint. That's one way to do it. And so, you know, I can come back over and scumble that really easy. The other thing is that you can have, that paint can have moisture in it, but there's just not much paint. So if you're going over this matte surface, it grabs the moisture out of it really quick. If you dry that paint out too much, there's no moisture in the paint to allow it to travel. Does that make sense? So if I'm on a slicker surface, I would use my paint dryer. If I'm on a matte surface, I use a little bit of moisture in my paint, but not much paint. Does that make sense? Okay? And then the other way, the older way I used to do dry brush when I did it on a semi-gloss surface is that I would use more paint, but the paint would be dry, no moisture. So there's different ways of doing it, but always judge your surface, your paint, how it's moving on the surface. What is it that causes your paint to move? Moisture, water. Now, the open medium is not going to move your colors as fast as extender, okay? And then extender will not move your colors as fast as water. So, because water's thinner than extender. And so, yeah, and it is play around, guys, with some of the different, the different feelings. I'm going to add a little bit of that right back here so I don't cut a line there. That looks good. Maybe a little bit in front of her right here. And then I'm going to leave this painting alone because I like it. I kind of like the way it looks with some of these little bits, sparks, stuff on there, okay? And so there's all kinds of ways to do it, and that's what you've got to keep in mind. Now, you can come back up here, put a little bit more of a cloud. You can put some more of the violets up here. You can do exactly what I always say in a lot of the Westerns is, before you finish, is to go up there, grab some of your sky color, and carry it down into your objects. And so grab some of this sky blue that you have here. Let's thin it with a little extender here. But grab some of the sky. Let's get this a little bit closer than I want. That's better. Grab some of this sky blue-gray here and touch that every once in a while into the horse. And this softens the exchange of the sky and the horse. So I would pick out certain areas, like there would be one like maybe right up in here, that you'll pick up that sky blue from the horse, from the sky down into the horse here. And, usually on shadow or receding edges and stuff like that, you'll pick up some of it, little marks of it, and carry that through on the horse and on the foal here. The little bit of that, it's almost like a reflected light. And we'll do that like that. But that is up for you to work on, okay? And so you can come in and clean up, work on a little bit more if you want. I might do just a little bit more. Like if I bring my colors in a little bit more precise here, that will really bring this little foal's face forward. So And I like that. Yeah, little things like that. But that's all up for you to do. But you get a good idea about it, and we did our scumbling, okay? So there you go. All right, back to another landscape. And we have to do another seascape, too. I want to do another seascape with you. I'm just going to take that little bit right out right there. I have to do another seascape with you, too. So we'll do that. But try some of this scumbling. It's a lot of fun. And it works really, really well for your landscape painters on rocks and stuff. It's just a fantastic technique for rocks, okay? Especially when they get all that lichen on it and stuff, you know, and yeah, it's a great technique, okay? So enjoy. And again, don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't subscribed to my channel, you know, by now. Why? No. Please go down and subscribe. And I'll look forward to painting with all of you again in just the next couple days. We might do a seascape or a landscape. We have to get over to those, okay? And then more flowers and then more westerns, because this is not technically a western. I want to paint another western. See you guys later.